Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world and whenever you are tuning into this video. My name is James Porcelli.
My name is Brian Thomas.
And welcome to another edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast.
What up, what up?
Yes. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to the Holy Shit podcast. Not too long ago today, ladies and gentlemen, your boys, both of us, collabed with the Holy Shit podcast. You guys know them from TikTok.
Shout out to
Instagram. Shout out to Abe, who is, I guess you can call him the head host of the Holy Shit podcast, along with many other people that we still hopefully will meet in regards to another collaboration in the near future. You know, people like Chuck Jordy, people like Minx, and all of those people from the Holy Shit podcast. But to Abe specifically, Abe, shout out to you. Shout out to the Holy Shit podcast. Definitely, I will send a link in the description box for you guys to go check out the Holy Shit podcast. I will put their TikTok as well as their Instagram if you guys want to check out their content, and definitely give them a follow. They're very good people. They're also tremendous content creators as well as tremendous wrestling fans, just like you and I. And it was really, really good, man. It's been a minute.
Man, had a good time. Yeah,
it's been a minute since both me and Brian did a duo of a collaboration. So this was really a lot of fun. You know, we talked some AEW, we talked some John Cena, we talked a little bit about SmackDown as well, at least
Tony
for
Storm.
a certain triple
Tony
threat.
Storm.
Timeless Tony Storm. We talked a lot about her and her feud with Mariah May, talked about a bunch of stuff. So when that episode does publish out, I will be posting links on our social media, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that collaboration video if you guys are interested in checking out. But once again, shout out to the Holy Shit podcast. We want to thank you guys for having us on your platform. We appreciate that. So, and definitely make sure you guys go check out the Holy Shit podcast
for sure,
and their content. So, but let's dive straight into business, man. We are officially, let's say, less than a month from WrestleMania.
Less than a month now. Yeah.
Less than a month now, and we are now kicking things into high gear. Either WWE is going to get their shit together or not, and we're at that stretch to see if there's going to be any sort of intrigue, investment, or whatever they have in store. So we will talk. We have some takeaways about SmackDown. We'll talk all about that. We got Jade Cargill to talk about this triple threat that is, unfortunately, for some odd reason, is now official on the WrestleMania card. What night is it going to be at WrestleMania? Who knows? We don't know yet. But that triple threat match is official. We're going to talk all about that towards the end of the show. There's a bunch of other stuff that happened on SmackDown as well. But first things first, man, I want to talk real quick about ratings, man. It's been a minute since I've spoken about some ratings. I still, guys, catch up with all of these ratings. You should see the notes of ratings that I have in my freaking notes and in my phone. I always keep up with these ratings because I'm a content creator, or at least a fan or an honest critic, to say that, ratings matter. I know it really matters to when fans are tuning in live, how interested people are tuning in live. And this is for both NXT and AEW. And we will, of course, talk a little bit about some AEW as well before we do get into SmackDown. But ratings talk real quick, man. NXT, AEW, that's kind of been the two, I guess, brands, the two companies, the two brands that have been pretty much head-to-head for a very long time now. Lately, NXT has been drawing very well. Of course, lately it's been, a couple of 100,000 thanks to this partnership with TNA. You've had the Hardy Boys on the show for the last couple of weeks, so that's kind of helped out at least maybe 50-some-odd thousands of people to join the show. They had NXT Roadblock, so they, I'm sure, had a big show planned for before and after NXT Roadblock just a couple of weeks ago. And then, of course, AEW, to where people want to continue to say, Brian, how much AEW sucks, how much they're going to go out of business. They want to keep comparing it to WCW and how they're just going to be just tossed into thin air. But I look at ratings, Brian, and yes, it's still somewhere in the 600 some odd thousand. I have the exact number right here. It's still not the best, but for what AEW has had to go up against, which was, NCAA March Madness, they had the first 4 games, of course, as well as NXT. And if I'm being honest with NXT, the show was average. And that's saying something, because NXT usually does produce better shows than most. But I've been saying this for a very long time with NXT. The men's division, man, is lacking. It is really lacking right now. The women, they got a bunch of talent, but the men's side of things, outside of maybe Ethan Page and maybe Obafemi and Trick, if you want to point those people out, there's not a whole lot to grasp in the NXT men's division. And now you have this weird faction, this Retribution Negative 2.0, whatever the fuck you want to call these people, to where a lot of people are they're just not with it. They just think it's silly. They think it's stupid. It just comes across a certain type of way. We still don't really know exactly what the mission is or why they're attacking certain people or just creating chaos for the sake of it. But for this week's ratings, man, NXT, they drew in 676,000 for this past Tuesday. And AEW, man, is not too far behind. They're at 658,000 from this week. That's another 30,000 jump from just last week's Wednesday's Dynamite show. So yes, Dynamite, again, guys, we know it still has its issues. It still has its ways to get better. But I'm telling you, man, NXT, like I just mentioned, the show has just not been the same over the last couple of weeks. There has been some blunders in the NXT males division. And then you look at these ratings, Brian, and it kind of proves my point. So where AEW, to where people want to make comparisons or they want to put AEW on this pedestal, I guess, to where it's so bad, like people like Eric Bischoff to say it's the worst thing on television. Well, if they're head-to-head with NXT, and I don't want to give this freaking excuse, it's a developmental brand. It's there to develop young stars. Guys, it's a WWE production on live television, and you also have main roster talent on your show. So I don't want to hear this shit about a developmental brand. Like, let's cut the shit. This is a WWE production that you're trying to put your best foot forward with. It's another separate brand. It's part of the WWE product. And the fact that people want to put AEW on such a low pedestal, but yet with NXT, right, it's not too far off from where they're at, to where one more bad show from NXT, Brian, to where it's not as consistent as it usually or it hasn't been over the last several weeks, AEW will surpass probably NXT for this coming week. They're just one more bad show away. And if that's the case, then what's the narrative? Right? Oh, is NXT now the worst freaking show to watch? Because I thought it was AEW Dynamite because they just surpassed, or potentially they're going to surpass NXT within a week. So, my point is that we have to just calm down on this narrative about AEW. I get it. We're going to talk a little bit about one specific part of the show. But as far as ratings goes, man, like NXT, they have this weird faction that's doing nothing for anybody, right? You still have a men's division outside of a handful of people that nobody care about, but nobody wants to talk about that, Brian. Nobody wants to point out the stuff that WWE is doing with NXT, but we will not hesitate to just shit on everything that AEW is doing. And again, AEW is not doing a whole lot of stuff that's gravitating towards people, but there's also a lot of things too that AEW is doing right, whether it's large, where the margin is larger or small. The positive is there because the numbers are going up. And the fact that they also went up against competition, right? Even against competition, which is the NCAA tournament, you were still able to not just maintain, but to gain 30,000 more viewership of fans. So, it's just things like that, man. We got to start being fair when it comes to our critiques, man. We got to have the same energy for one company as we do for another. So, but Brian, real quick, what are your takes, man, on these ratings that we're able to mention, man? NXT, again, was 676,000, and AEW not too far behind. They're only 658,000. What are your thoughts about that, man?
So, I mean, to be fair, with NXT, it's not that I think the product's bad or whatever. It's just that, with my life and schedule, I just don't have enough time to keep up with NXT as the way I do with, SmackDown or Raw or AEW. So AEW specifically, and it's funny, we kind of talked about this with Abe on his podcast today. I think the biggest problem with them is just the inconsistency of it. Like,
yeah,
when they do, get a storyline right and act, invest in it, and the performers go out there, there's a number of feuds throughout the years that have been really, really good. it is just the lack of consistency with AEW.
Yeah, right.
So, and for people say, going out of business, look, again, wrestling. This is why Triple H is out and everybody is able to go out there and say, we're in the greatest time in professional wrestling or whatever it is they say. What they really mean is this is the most lucrative for the companies and for the wrestlers. And just within American companies, I mean WWE, TNA, AEW. I mean, look, if TNA and Ring of Honor are still are in business, AEW is not going out of business, folks. I don't know what to tell you.
No,
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. All that stuff is like, to me, the more wrestling companies, I guess to a degree, sure, everything can get oversaturated, but the more competition there is, then the better it is for everybody, for the wrestlers themselves, the product, the companies themselves, and for the viewers at home. So yeah, just as far as anybody going out of business or whatever, and again, you're backed by a fucking billionaire. I don't know if most people really can't fathom how much $1 billion actually is, but it's so much more than a million. It's yeah, they're not going to go out of business. So
yeah. Yeah, it's a shame, man. Like, again, all over the IWC, like, you'll always see wrestling fans shitting, specifically AEW and their loss of numbers. And I get it. Like, we should be holding AEW accountable because of the fact that you lost numbers from last week. That's something to hold AEW accountable for. But guys, I'm once again going to go back to these ratings here. Like for NXT, for example, like not too long ago, this was March 11th. This was for Roadblock. I believe this was the date for Roadblock. And Roadblock, I mean, no shocker, they were above 700,000, right? The week after that, just from this week, they lose and they go back down towards less than 700,000 viewership. And guess what AEW has done since what? March 5th, earlier on in this month. They have now gained 58 some odd thousand just from the beginning of this month. But nobody's going to talk about that, right? We're just going to talk about when AEW lose viewership. And with NXT, because it's a developmental brand, we never want to say shit because it's a developmental. Yet Triple H and HBK, right? Whatever conversations happen behind closed doors, let's bring Chelsea Green onto the product. Let's bring in this person and that person, but yet it's supposed to be a developmental brand. And when, when AEW does surpass in ratings, guess what Triple H will just say? Oh, it's just a pissant t-shirt company, right? Oh, they beat our developmental system. Good for them. So when they do defeat you in ratings, now they're just a pissant t-shirt company. And then when you do try to surpass them, you do want to put all of your main roster talent, say, oh, hey, see, we won, we're the kings, we run professional wrestling, we're the head honchos of professional wrestling as a whole. Like, cut the shit, man. Enough with this developmental brand shit. That's what they have the Performance Center doing behind closed doors, working with certain talents. That's developmental. This is
I will say this. I mean, it is a brand, but it's while they do bring stars down from time to time, which is another benefit that WWE has, is that they can always throw, Rock's coming back, see, we're Cena's going down there. They can always do that and gain 100, 200,000 at the snap of a finger,
right. That's what I mean, though. So like, that's what I mean. And I go back to what Triple H said. This was like years and years. I believe this was on Ariel Helwani's podcast, or what he mentioned in an interview. It's just like, it's just like you're bringing all this main roster talent because the said competition that you're usually going up against, right? Whether it's on Tuesday nights or AEW on Wednesday nights, right? You'll bring all this main roster talent because you want the most eyeballs to your product, but there's nothing wrong with that. But yet when you take the L of it, right, it's just like, people will also defend it. So we're like, it's AEW, right? It's just, it's like, they beat our developmental system. Now you want to call it a developmental system when AEW was defeating you in ratings not too long ago. And like, stop, man. Like, nothing adds up to what you're saying, Triple H. Like, stop it. So like, that's what I mean, Brian. Like, yeah, of course, like, you're one end, you are developing stars, but on the other end, you're not going to be hesitant to send a main roster talent to that said brand when you can. So that's what I mean. Are you a developmental brand, or are you an actual third brand for your actual product, right? So that's,
I would say, and the truth is, which again is, I think, kind of what you're getting at, and which, of course, they're never going to say, is that yes, they are a developmental brand, but when the shit hits the fan and you're in competition and whatever, you're going to use every dirty trick in the book to A, gain your viewership, but B, more importantly than that, to steal AEW's viewership. And that's the game they're playing. I mean,
yeah, exactly. I mean, at this point, like, listen, in regards to that, like, just don't say shit, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, like, if you're defeated in ratings, if certain happens in a certain ratings war, to where years ago, like, with Triple H saying, like, oh, like, they beat our developmental system, like, good for them. Like, just don't say shit. You don't need to say that.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
What is that saying to all of these talents in NXT that you are trying to develop? You make it come across to where, like, they're just kind of they're developmental freaking talents. Who the frick cares? Like, what are you doing, man? Like, that's what I mean, right? I'm not saying like Triple H needs to stand up there like, yeah, they fucking beat us, man. Like, they took a whooping. Obviously not, but still, your best foot forward is just to not say anything, right? And it's the way you say it as well, to where you don't get backlash from it, because now moving forward, after what Triple H has said for many moons now in regards to AEW, you see the ratings are somewhere going more forward than they are backward, at least for now, right? That can always change within the next couple of weeks, and they're still in that 600 some odd thousand. But again, man, if as a fan base, as a wrestling community, if we're just fair for once, and we don't have to, like an Eric Bischoff, to where we got to say that it's the worst thing on television, maybe, just maybe, we can acknowledge to where Tony Khan can finally put his best foot forward and put on a better product for us fans watching the AEW product. And that's just it, man. So that's why, guys, I love talking about ratings. It's having discussions like this. And I know it's like ratings talk. It's just like, it's like earmuffs. La, la, la. We don't care. We don't care. The ratings don't matter. But guys, guess what? It does when we kind of break stuff down like this. I know we just want to talk about our favorite wrestler and our favorite segment, but guys, like, these things matter, man. They truly do. And if you don't like it, well, then frickin' up yours. Go to another frickin' podcast. So enough ratings talk. I'll save the ratings talk at we're almost 20 minutes into this show, so I'll leave it at that, man. But here's the thing, man. They're one more bad show away. I'm talking NXT, to where eventually, don't be shocked, Brian, next week you'll see AEW at least somewhere 675,000 if they put on somewhat of a decent show this coming Wednesday. Don't be shocked if you see AEW surpass NXT this coming week. Just don't be shocked if that happens, because of, again, just the lackluster booking and what's very lackluster in the NXT men's side of things. So, but we'll see. Time will only tell with that. And speaking of AEW, let's just jump straight into this discussion, man. Jon Moxley, the Death Riders, Edge, Adam Copeland, this street fight match, and this particular spot with Edge's bat named Spike, right? The whole bat Spike thing, right? The spot to where Edge delivered a suplex and Mox landed back first
backdropper, I think. Yeah.
Backdropper, something like that.
Maybe it was a suplex, but yeah.
I think it was pretty much a suplex. He suplexes him, and Mox lands straight onto those nails from the bat. And there are a lot of fans, shockingly, right? Wrestling fans, freaking being an outroar or something. Wow, no shit. Are so, I guess, just pissed off, or just feel a certain type of way that this particular part of the match should have been canceled off. Like, oh, like, what are we doing? Like, this is too much. Like, oh, this should have been taken off the network. It's been a lot of backlash from fans and everything that has to do with this segment. And I will say, was this portion of the match very cringeworthy? Yes. Was it needed? Absolutely not. It was not needed. Was it approved? Technically, it was pretty much approved by Tony Khan. Yeah. But for us to go the limit to say that it should have been taken off the network, to where we've seen GCW, we've seen ECW perform on the most highest of levels of gruesome amount of shit. And I don't know, Brian, if this is like a certain demographic to where they never got to watch ECW or watch crazy hardcore shit back in the
Go
day.
watch your Cactus Jack match from New Japan, man.
Jack, right, exactly, man. Like, it's just, I get it. If it's not people's cup of tea, like, oh, James, well, I just prefer not to see that type of Crimson Mask and that type of blood and that type of gruesome. That's totally fine, right? That's, if you want to push that type of narrative, that's fine. That's your personal preference. But to go the stretch to say that it should have been taken off of the network, come on, man. Now we're just being, let's face it, fucking bitches at this point. Like,
100%,
and we talk about AEW, right? And this is where, a lot of people have a certain disconnect with both WWE and AEW, right? It's just, a lot of fans will just shit on AEW because they're not more so of what WWE is. It's like, oh, AEW, their head competition with WWE. We want you to be more like what WWE does. But that's not the case. That's not the case for any type of pro wrestling company that you come across. That includes TNA, that includes New Japan, and that includes AEW, to where, yes, you still want the foundations and everything in pro wrestling, one-on-one, to where you could still put on a really good show. You still need, the storytelling. You still need to develop characters. You still need to, produce and structure your show the right way. But in regards to actual content, in regards to actual productivity for a certain company, if this is what AEW wants to do, to where, they're a lot more hardcore and they're a lot more, I guess, gruesome and part of the wrestling and using certain characters, there's nothing wrong with that. Are some better than others? Sure. But if we want AEW to be an alternative and you're using two wrestlers that fit that alternative in a match, what's the problem? Now, if you don't like it, again, that's fine. But to say that it should be taken off the network just because that's right, I'm talking to you that's watching this right now, that you don't like it, that you don't like all this blood and gruesomeness and whatever, well, then that's on you, right? It's just like they're not going to take it off the network because you specifically don't like all the blood and whatnot. And I get it. Is it needed? No. Stuff like this is where it's needed in storylines, to where it calls for it. We've spoken about Revolution, Brian, to where you need to do moments like this to where it calls for it, to where all of this animosity and tension, and you build the story up the right way. That's where it makes sense, and where it makes sense for somebody like Edge to bring out a spike bat and to frickin' use it to where you're going to suplex a motherfucker on that frickin' bat, and its spikes are going to go through somebody. Like, that makes sense. And, at the end of the day too, right? These are professionals, right? It's a gimmicks type of spot. These people know what they're getting themselves into. And now we'll always give a helping hand to say, is this worth it though? Like, is it worth it? And that's what we need to separate. It's not the fact that it's when AEW decides to do these things, but
or anybody, any company,
anybody, absolutely, not just AEW, but specifically for AEW, that they want to be this alternative. Is that, are you doing it just for the gruesomeness and the chaos, or are you doing it because the story is calling for it? That's what we should be discussing here, not because of the fact that we just don't like the blood and like, this is whatever. No, is it the fact that, does this spot call for the story being told? And that's what's most important. I know that was a lot, Brian, but what are your takes in regards to this outroar from just Jon Moxley and the Death Riders itself and this spot from the street fight? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's why I, stay off the internets with, this is wrestling, man. It's supposed to be entertainment and fun. But
exactly.
But yeah, those are pretty much my sentiments, man. Like, I have no problem with, risky move sets or blood or, any of that. But are we doing it just to get a pop from the crowd? Is that why we're doing it? Like, right, absolutely. So so in that match specifically, did I thought that it was stupid to have that in there, completely unnecessary, added nothing to it.
Yeah,
But at the same time, yeah, we're calling for it to be like what? Dynamite to be taken off the air,
or just like the
on,
spots, yeah, Dynamite, the show being taken off the network, the spot being taken off the network, like canceling. Well, yeah, like no, stop.
I mean, I mean, it was unnecessary, but a lot of shit wrestling's unnecessary, and so no, I'm not going to draw the line here and say, oh, we can't have this. It's overkill, and that's when you get into the issue with it. Like, is it overkill? Are you doing it for the pop and the reaction, or because it's adding something to the story and trying to convey and again make the audience feel, So that's how I feel about it. But I got no problem with I just taking it off air. Yeah, that's come on, people, settle the fuck down. Settle down.
Seriously, like it's really nice outside. You guys might want to take a walk or something. Get some fresh air. Breathe in the nice spring air. Not too much though, because there's pollen. It's spring season, so it's a lot of people sneezing. There's allergies and whatnot. But get outside. You know what I'm saying? It's good for you.
And just also take a nice this really does speak to the fickleness of wrestling fans in particular, man. Because again, Jon Moxley, the Death Riders, whatever. If it's your cup of tea, maybe, maybe not. But again, I mean, I'm kind of I stay off the internet comments and whatever. So this backlash of, I don't know, Moxley or the Death Riders need to whatever. I don't know. But man, I'm telling you, Jon Moxley specifically, dude, that dude has carried this company more than one time in just the 5-6 years it's been in existence. Yeah. That guy, since he's come to AEW, granted in the Shield, when the Shield was, at its height, yeah, that was awesome. But him as an individual, this is the best shit he's ever done, man. What are y'all complaining about?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just the fact that they don't like his style, if they don't like the way he wrestles. But again, that's also personal preference too, right? Like again, Brian, we can single-handedly, pick certain wrestlers that don't, take a liking to our personal preference. But guess what? We're not about that shit. We're gonna be honest of what's good and what's bad, right?
I'll be John Cena for me specifically. Not once would I ever say he shouldn't be in. I don't know. Like, he was a positive influence in wrestling, period.
Right. And the fact though is that you acknowledged of how good his heel segment was in his promo segment from this past Monday, right? But people will just say, they'll nitpick and they'll say, okay, it was good. It was this and it was that, whatever. But no, even for people like you, Brian, no surprise. There's a lot of people that don't like John Cena for certain reasons, right? But it's all just about us as a community to where we have to be, honest with ourselves, right? Is Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, is that what's really the detriment to this company? Is that what's really the main issue of what's going on? And I get it. Like, Mox is going to take the heat because he's the champion. I understand. But is that really the main issue of what's going on in this company and why they have been in a rut for such a long time? And guys, I'll be honest, the answer's no. The answer's just no, it's not.
Yeah.
So those are our takes, man, in regards to this spot and just kind of going more in depth about this whole spot in this matchup. We talked a little bit about it in our last episode, but those are our final takes about it. And we'll talk more about AEW. We'll talk Dynasty that's coming up in just a couple of weeks as well. All right, let's get into SmackDown, man. We got some takeaways for SmackDown. First and foremost, let's just start right from the jump. We're live, in beautiful Bologna, Italy, right? The crowd is hot and whatnot. Not a lot of times to where WWE is going to, Italy for, especially, live events is one thing, but also for like televised
for a
events,
Raw,
SmackDown, or a SmackDown, right? It's very rare, so people are going to go out there and sing and do a bunch of Disney sing-alongs and dance and whatever and have a great time, and there's no knocking that, right? As Randy Orton comes out there, as we hear a lot of these international crowds will sing along to his theme song, just like we hear Seth Rollins' theme song being sung, right? And a bunch of other theme songs. Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, everybody, right? And it's just,
Jay Uso,
Uso's yeet and everything, right? So, again, much love to that. And that's where, WWE will like to spin it, at least like marketing. Like, oh, look at this. WWE is the best it's ever been. It is booming. It's on fire. No, the fuck it's not. No, it's
right.
not.
When you go to the city that, maybe they see you once every 5 years or decade or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks pretty darn good. Yeah, and they're going to chant everything underneath the sun because you rarely go to this type of place. Bologna, Italy. So, yes, they were live on Friday afternoon. Live was SmackDown this past Friday. So let's just start off from the jump. We got a bunch of other takeaways that we'll go over. Randy Orton started off the night, talking about he had a matchup last week with Carmelo. We mentioned a little bit about that. Talks about Kevin Owens and getting his hands on Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens comes out and he lets his guard down. I think he actually wore a Randy Orton RKO shirt to the ring to where he's trying to be, apologetic. Like, listen, I'm sorry. Like, listen, I took my anger out on you because I was so angry with people like Sammy and people like Cody. Those are the ones who betrayed me, right? I always feel like a more closer connection to you, or speaking hypothetically, right? And he's trying to let bygones be bygones with Randy Orton. And Randy Orton's like, oh, let me think about it. Oh, just kidding, right? No, you can take your half-hearted apology and shove it up your ass. And then Randy Orton goes on to say, like, you used to be about fight, Owens fight. Now you're just bitch, Owens bitch. And he says that at WrestleMania, he is going to punt Kevin Owens' head straight off of his shoulders, or kick his head off of his shoulders come WrestleMania. And that was pretty much your opening segment. So, it's not that even this segment was bad, really. There was really nothing bad about it. Now it's official. You're going to have Kevin Owens and Orton, as we all knew we would get to this point. It's just that I want to get into this, Brian. I really do. But, we know when it comes to booking, man, it's just we kind of go off of past history, right? Are they really going to give this the attention and the booking that it truly deserves, right, between Kevin Owens and Randy Orton? I do like more of a vicious side of Randy Orton, to where he's no longer just the happy-go-lucky, right? Like, oh, I'm happy to be here. It's all smiles. No, bro, that ain't you, bro. That's not Randy Orton. But now Randy Orton has a mission. He has an agenda to bring back that more vicious side, that more vindictive side, maybe not as a heel, but at least in this particular role, to where he wants to get his hands on Kevin Owens, and they will do that at WrestleMania. So I don't know, man. Right now, I'm not at the point, Brian, to where I'm like, oh, I got to see this matchup after this promo. I'm not there yet. I really want to be on board with this match because, listen, I really like Randy Orton. He's always been one of my favorites for the longest time now, along with him and Edge, growing up watching WWE, along with everyone else in the Ruthless Aggression era. And then, of course, we talk about Kevin Owens and how just very well he has done, at least for the work that he's been able to provide outside of the booking and what he's involved in, but for himself and how he portrays himself as the heel and what he has to deliver, he's been doing a really solid job. So I want to give both of those praise, but I'm just not sold that they're going to book this correctly. I really feel, Brian, that this is going to be half-assed. We might do some brawls. We might do some more other promo segments, and it's not going to gain that much attraction going into this matchup. It's just not. But, Brian, what are your takes about this promo, Kevin Owens, and this matchup being official?
Yeah, an opening segment, it was fine. But yeah, like you said, and what are we now? So we got 3 weeks, maybe 3 more SmackDowns until maybe
Pretty
4.
much.
I don't know, but yeah,
3 or 4 in one.
Yeah, and we've already seen it with so many people. So yeah, in the next 3 weeks, it's going to be, a brawl where Orton gets the upper hand, and Owens gets the upper hand, and then probably one where they're just separated.
Exactly.
So, while it's all kind of, not really exciting or anything to look forward to, at the same time, I really do think this match has the potential. It's going to be one of my favorite matches coming out of this Mania. Like, I have no doubt. And again, like you said, with KO, man, I hope people, especially just kind of at the tail end of last year and then coming into this year, man, these last few pay-per-views and the storylines, KO and Sammy, KO and Cody. KO's been fucking knocking it out of the park, man. Like, and he has really been just, again, he's one of those guys who will, oh man, he'll never get the respect that he's due, I guess, or so to speak. But I mean, he's been a glue that has, been a bright spot in this company, for a long time, but specifically here in just this year, man. It's KO has done a lot of shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's, I mean, the promo leading up to it, or the promos, it'll be okay. But as far as how we're getting into Mania, it's one of the matches I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see, man. It's right now. I'm just kind of, that's just where I'm at. So, moving on, man. Here's one of my takeaways, man. So there was a next or portion of the show in the first hour was a tag match, and my first takeaway involves Shinsuke, to where Shinsuke just seems like a dead man walking at this point, to where we know now that Shinsuke's contract is coming to an end. He just lost that United States Championship. Is Shinsuke pretty much done? Is this dude just in the freaking doghouse at this point, to where he takes a simplistic loss to Damian Priest just to push a Drew and Priest feud? Let's face it, that there's really, it's not going anywhere. It's just, it's all about, it's on site. It's about more brawls being on site and more. Yeah. It's just, guys, this is like legit, guys. We don't joke and like just say shit that it's all brawls. It legit is all brawls. Every feud that you come across is all brawls, man. And that's what this is for Priest and Drew McIntyre. You already did this matchup not too long ago. Nobody really cared about this match. They were more intrigued with Drew and Punk at the time. It wasn't really even, it was just to further along that story. And now here you are, you're going to pump it up for WrestleMania. And now Shinsuke is taking the blunt of it, to where his contract is going to be up. He just lost his title, and you might not see Shinsuke within the next couple of months. Probably after WrestleMania, you might not even see much more of Shinsuke at this point. So that's what's disappointing. And all of that, Brian, is just to try to push this feud between Drew and Damian Priest that, let's face it, nobody cares. I mean, nobody really has. I mean, let's be honest. If you're being honest with yourself, listen, we like Drew, right? I'm not going to, push that away side. Drew has had his moments, especially last year with Punk. But let's face it now, his booking after this feud with Punk has been absolutely atrocious. And this feud with frickin' Damian Priest is not going anywhere. It's not getting anybody excited, because it's just another feud to where they just brawl nonstop, just like with Tiffany and Charlotte, just like with frickin' Punk and Rollins, just like with Cody and KO a few months ago. It's all the same thing. Nothing stands out, and nobody's going to be interested in that. And that's it. Brian, any takeaways, man?
No, really. I mean, I've said enough about Shinsuke and my thoughts on him over the years. And yeah, you're probably right. Nothing. I have nothing to add with Shinsuke, other than if he remains in WWE or goes elsewhere, I wish him well, because he's really, I think he's an awesome talent, and
yeah, absolutely.
And Drew and Priest, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, it's just all brawls and whatever. I mean, what happens? I don't know. They'll have this match at Mania, I guess, and then go their separate ways, and it doesn't really amount to anything. I don't see, but those are my thoughts on those three. I really, Priest again is still one of those guys where, like, I really do like him, and it's like, who were we just talking? There was somebody we were talking about on the female side a couple weeks ago or something, and there's like something that just hasn't clicked quite yet, but it's right there. So
yeah, man, it's moving on. Just moving on. Tiffany and Charlotte. So they have this split screen interview between one another. Again, this was listen, I'm not gonna shit on this, man. I mean, I can debate and argue that it's kind of weird that you did a massive brawl segment and then now you want to do this sit down split screen interview, to where I feel like, honestly, it's kind of weird, to where wouldn't it be like vice versa, to where you would want to do the interview and then start, because words are being exchanged, right? Because let's face it, there's no real reason for Tiffany and to Charlotte to be brawling nonstop, to where security and officials, 20 of these motherfuckers, have to break them apart, and they can't even do it. And now your words are exchanged. Okay, now what? We're gonna brawl some more because we exchanged some zingers at one another. Wouldn't you want to do that before all the brawling and nonstop? This is what I mean, man, about this company and being ass backwards, bro.
Yeah.
It's an honest discussion, but outside of that, I mean, listen, Charlotte, I thought played her role well. I mean, I've always said this, and everybody has said this. As a heel, she's better. She's more natural, just being just the bitch of a heel, right? And I thought Tiffany delivered the line of this entire face-to-face was, Charlotte, you like to take something and just pour cold water on it. If you guys get that phrase, you know what I'm talking about. I really like that line from Tiffany Stratton. So look, did this make me more excited about this match? Not really. Is the matchup going to save the build for this build going into this? Probably, as I'm sure they're going to put on a decent performance for what these two ladies are capable of doing. But, Brian, we've said this about Charlotte, man, and potentially winning this title. We all can expect of what's going to happen, and we're dreading at this point. But, man, if you have Charlotte win this title, like, what now? And what does that do for Tiffany Stratton? Oh, it put Tiffany Stratton on the map. I thought we've been doing this, though, for the past several months. How is this gaining exposure?
Tiffany Stratton is on the map.
She is the fucking on the map already. So it's like, oh, it's going to help Tiffany Stratton. No, the fuck it's not. She's already at the mountaintop. She's the fucking champion. She's built her way up to this point. And now what? She's going to lose this matchup at WrestleMania. And now Charlotte Flair is going to win this title. And what is it doing, guys? What is Charlotte Flair winning another title doing anything for anybody? The answer is nothing. Like, what is making Charlotte Flair, you pushing this agenda that she is that much more superior than everybody else? The answer is nothing. She's not that much better than a Naomi. She's not that much better than Bianca. She's not that much better than Tiffany Stratton. She's not that much better than Io Sky.
I wouldn't say she's better than, I'd argue that if she's better than any. I mean, I don't think she's better than Bianca. Naomi, I mean, athletically and in-ring wise, I don't think she's better. Maybe better promo, but that's only because, I mean, she's been given that platform for 15 years where Naomi has not.
Exactly. Right? It's a 15 title reigns compared to Naomi's 2, and those are dusts in the wind for the last freaking. And Naomi's been here longer, bro. She's been here longer than Charlotte. It's crazy. So I mean, look,
I tell you, I got and not that again, for Charlotte Flair to get in the ring and do what she does, that takes an incredible amount of athleticism, dedication, and whatever.
Sure.
But I feel more about somebody that came as a goddamn funkadelic and has worked her way to this.
Funkadactyl.
Fucking kudos, man. I mean, goddamn.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we'll get to Naomi, of course, later on in the show, but so we got some takeaways involving her. But yeah, man, it's just, listen, I'll give Charlotte credit. I mean, she did a good job playing her role. Both of these ladies played the role. Was this memorable at all? No. Is this one of those sit down interviews or segments to where we're going to go back and remember? No, not really. It's going to be a dust in the wind, but still, man, it's just, I just still find it ass backwards that you would do all the brawling and now you want to throw the zingers at people. Like, the fuck, man. Again, this is what I mean, man. Make it fucking make sense. It's just very weird. Anyway, moving on. Jacob Fatu, let me get into him. Jacob Fatu's booking has also been very fucking weird. And he has this matchup with Strowman, DQ finish, which is what I kind of expected. It was Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga. They come out and attack Braun Strowman along with people. I think LA Knight came out for the save to try to even up the odds as well. But now there's this disconnect with Jacob Fatu. And now what? We're slowly turning Jacob Fatu face against Solo Sikoa. Guys, this is what I don't understand. Why do we take people who are supposed to be right now are supposed to be diabolical heels. People like Braun Breaker, people like Gunther, so many other people in this company, and for some odd reason, because maybe they get a little bit of cheers, because they get a little bit of, fans are digging their shtick. Oh, let's just turn them face, man. Let's strike while the iron is hot. What the fuck, guys, are we doing, man? This dude, Jacob Fatu, should be running amok as a diabolical heel coming from a heel faction, and he just debuted not even several months ago. Like, it hasn't even been not even a year since this dude has been in freaking in this company. And now all of a sudden...
And it's really only been until the last, 2-3 months where we've really seen him, start to talk and have get a little bit of that more personality and stuff.
Right. Use that more in his heel persona. You haven't even scratched the surface with Jacob Fatu, and now you want to just turn him face or have this tweener stick. God, and for what? For a Solo Sikoa matchup? Like, does any guys, if we're really being honest, outside of what we could have gotten, which was Roman and Jacob Fatu, does anybody really give a shit about Solo and Jacob Fatu, guys? Let's be fucking real. The answer is no. And I don't want to make that out of context to where it's shade throwing to Solo, because I don't want it to be that way. But it's the fact of the matter that, listen, Solo Sikoa, this again, it's just straight honesty. The dude is a mid-carder. He's not a main event freaking dude to be going up against a guy like Jacob Fatu, where it's just making his stock look smaller because Jacob Fatu just has so much more boxes being checked off. But people know that Jacob Fatu, he's more likable than Solo, so let's make Fatu the face over Solo. This stick shouldn't even be happening, bro. It's the timing. It's the timing of when you're turning these people is the problem. So where you want to flip-flop Braun Breaker, you want to flip-flop Gunther, you want to flip-flop all of these people, and all you're doing is just confusing the fuck out of people. Is Jacob Fatu supposed to be a heel? Is he supposed to be a face? Why is he turning face this fucking soon for a Solo Sikoa matchup? That's no better than being on a SmackDown. I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I'd rather see this on a Saturday night's main event or a SmackDown than I would rather you waste a match on a 2-night WrestleMania than this matchup. I'm sorry. That's just my honesty. But Brian, any takeaways from Jacob Fatu, this situation with Solo? What are your takes, man?
It's going to end terribly for everybody involved.
I
got a lot of takeaways on this one, man. I'll start with Braun Strowman. Because this dude, what are they doing with him? Like, is he legit just there now, or at least for the time being, to get decimated by Fatu? Because I mean that's pretty much what's been happening with Strowman.
Pretty much, yeah.
So you get to this match and Solo interferes, causing the DQs, and then so now Strowman is the winner.
Right.
I mean, so Strowman and LA Knight are going to have a match. Jeez, what do we think is going to happen there? You think Fatu's going to come out? I think so.
Yeah.
And you talk about Solo and Fatu, which yes, they're obviously getting there too. But I'm still they're still back here, I don't know, just having a fucking orgasm fest over triple threats. Like, this is, I think, going to be a triple threat at Mania too. Fatu, Strowman, and LA Knight.
Oh my lord, man! Yeah, that's an understatement, bro. Freaking orgasm over triple threats. My god, man.
Yeah,
it is ridiculous. Yeah.
So that's the way I could see that going, where we're not even getting Solo and Fatu yet. It's going to be this triple threat for the U.S. title.
Yeah.
Fatu, as much as I fucking love him. Love his gimmick. I mean,
me too.
But he should still be a heel. It's one of those things where, I don't know. Back in the day, things have changed so much, I guess, where I look at an old school heel fucking Roddy Piper, right? I mean, he had his fans, no doubt, and people would cheer him, no doubt.
Yeah.
But the overall like if he went into an arena most times, unless he was in his hometown or whatever,
Yeah.
and he's facing a Hogan or a whatever, he's going to get the majority of the boos.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do see where they're coming from, where Fatu's getting cheered so much, but at the same time, this dude, you gotta let him be a fucking just a beast of a heel, man.
Yeah.
Like no, right
When
now,
this
I
company
do
needs
not want to.
heels, we need
Yeah, I
heels,
do
bro,
not
in
want
this
to see
company.
him as a babyface and trying to, because just as a babyface, you're not able to do the things you can as a heel. And
Yeah.
fuck.
And by the way, a guy named Roman Reigns in that Bloodline Wars games he's the top face right now. So what is it benefiting Jacob Fatu guys being a face right now? When you
Right.
have people like Cody, when you have people like Punk, when you have people like Raw, you have all these baby faces. Where are the fucking heels? You have one heel. His name is John Cena. That's all you have.
Cena.
Oh
And
my God.
my last point to that is, and I'll kind of pose this as a question to you, like,
Yeah.
but everything in the bloodline, right? I mean, I'm talking Roman, the two separate bloodlines, and all this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think they're done with it, kind of, or does this, because you're talking about now, Fatu and going against Solo, like, do you think they ever come back with The Rock and Roman and Jake and like actually finish this shit, or are we just kind of, this is what it is now?
Yeah, yeah. I think it might be done, I think, honestly, because the way that they are trying to portray Jacob Fatu more as a solo
Right.
act, and maybe when you'll see people like a Tongaloa and Bronson Reed, to where maybe if you want to try to do like a one-off to where like, oh, everybody kind of like reforms to do like a certain type of multi-tag match or something like that, maybe maybe but the way that again but the way that
go ahead.
because the way that they are kind of switching gears with Jacob Fatu more as a face, I mean, let's be honest, I mean, they're doing, because they're not going to make a Solo Sikoa freaking face, like that would just be stupid.
Yeah.
Like they're going to make Jacob Fatu the face. So if that's the case, right, we go talk about Roman Reigns and Fatu and the whole bloodline situation with Roman and The Rock. Like that's the case, then like how would you continue that if now one of your heels in the War Games match is now a face? So I don't know. Yeah, that's
just and that's a disappointing of something that was years in the making, and it was so fucking good for a long time to just. It feels like to me like there's been no. It just kind of just faded away.
Exactly.
Yep.
Let's get into the ladies. This was Naomi. Naomi actually had some really good heel work as she was interfered in a matchup with Jade Cargill and Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan wins the match, due to interference from Naomi using the tag title to her advantage to cost Jade this matchup with Liv. I thought that was actually a nice little touch. It kind of, at least how I took away from it, right? Like the tag title symbolizing, her being a tag champion, and how this whole departure with Bianca and Naomi and Jade. So I thought, maybe it wasn't planned that way, but that's just how I took with it. I'm like, all right, using that championship is kind of a good symbolization of interfering. So I kind of like that in a way. But Naomi's heel work, man, she's like mocking Jade Cargill's freaking her pose and her stature after she attacks Jade. I thought that was pretty cool, man. I actually really like that a lot. Listen, man, you guys know I put Naomi on such a pedestal, man, because I do think she is really damn talented and really good. If you give her the ball, man, and that segment with Bianca proves my freaking point. A lot of people are not fans of Naomi, and that's fine. Like, oh, she's kind of average. She's blah. She's whatever. She's maybe a good in-ring, athletic performer, but her promo skills are this and that. But if you go back to that segment, man, if you actually give this woman a chance, bro, like she can do her part. She doesn't have to carry everything, but if you can allow her to just do her part and the other person to do their part, you can do some really good shit with this woman. So as far as Jade and Naomi is concerned, right? Can Bianca still be part of this? I guess they'll probably tell more of that after WrestleMania, to where they're going to do this match with Naomi and Jade. I'm sure that'll be official within the next week or so, I guess.
Yeah.
And because now the narrative is like, oh, there's no way that Naomi could have taken out Jade by herself. So was it the fact that it was with Bianca, or was it Naomi's plan, but with some reinforcements? That's kind of the question here. But again, man, my problem though is that they kind of messed this up, Brian. And I mentioned this, from that segment with Bianca and Naomi. They already did the payoff. They already did the payoff by having Jade take this woman out twice now. They did it at Elimination Chamber, which was great, by the way. But then you do it back to back in the same week. Why do we need to see the match now? Why do we need to see Jade Cargill get her hands on Naomi when the deed is done? There's no need to see a matchup. You're telling me all this frustration and build is just to beat freaking Naomi in a match? She just pushed you off of a fucking loading dock, and your main mission is to beat her in a matchup at Wrestle. Stop, man. No, your goal is to get your hands on her, and you did that. So I think this has already been botched, but the ladies will try to, I guess, fix this in a way to where what's been given to them, they'll try to knock this out of the park. But we'll see, man. Liv and Jade, I thought the segment last week, I thought was a good way to get to this matchup. Jade and Liv and the segment that they put on, right? No physicality, just in a different type of setting, right? To where Liv, I thought, brought a lot of substance into, Jade's, sit down interview with Jackie Redmond, I believe it was. So if you want to get to get to an impromptu matchup for the following week, it's no harm, no foul, really. So Liv wins this match where she's a champion. So you have to have her win matches. That's just, and if you want to do the interference, fine. So I have no issue with that. It's just, my problem is that they've already botched it because they've already done the payoff at this point. So there's, at this point, Brian, to where you took a really good thing, but you shit all over it because there's no more payoff anymore. So, and who attacked Jade? Was it Naomi? Was it with reinforcements? Was it Bianca? I'm sure time will only tell. But what are your thoughts, Brian, in regards to this whole situation, Naomi, Jade, and Bianca, and this whole stuff going on?
Yeah, I mean, in this whole thing, I really can't praise Naomi enough, and really my thoughts are just kind of what I hope happens here. For me personally, I mean, I understand why they did it, and probably still will continue the next week or two, but Jade and Liv or Jade and Raquel, like, I don't even think that's necessary. But Naomi specifically, man, and I hope people caught it, and I can only hope it means something, because God damn it, why are you doing this if it doesn't mean anything? But her ring gear, man, the caution tape. That's Owen Hart, Nation of Domination, man. I mean, straight up. Yeah. And so, and you just kind of mentioned too with the payoff where Jade's already, given a beat down to Naomi. Mm-hmm. So that kind of tells me also that that's not the ultimate payoff. Mm-hmm. I say all that to say there has got to be a female version. I don't know what you want to call them, but essentially the Nation of Domination or something of that ilk. Whether you want to have Bianca in there with it or not, it could go either way, but definitely Naomi, Lash Legend, Bianca, I guess maybe, and I'm trying to think of the fourth one, and I'm the
Jakara Jackson.
Jakara Jackson.
Yeah.
So whether it's a trio of those three or four, with Bianca, I'm cool with it either way. But I feel like this has to be some kind of stable with Naomi. It's got to be.
We'll see, man. We shall see. But yes, much love to Naomi and her ring gear. I did want to point that out as well. Love the caution ring gear. So that was really badass. That was really cool. And again, her mocking Jade and her shtick, like she was just in the moment. She got that heel heat. She was getting those boos. So just much love to Naomi, man. This is what we've been saying, guys. Just give this fucking woman a fucking chance to just shine and do her part, and she'll fucking do it, bro. It's not that hard. People like Naomi. They want to see her rock and see what she's got. She's and listen, we talk about deserving. She's fucking earned at least to give her not a championship. We're not talking titles, right? Not like a Jey Uso situation to where, oh, he's been here for 15 plus years, so we got to throw a title on him. No, just give Naomi, a woman who has paid her dues, a storyline and a feud to where it's going to help her out and remind people of how good this woman is, man. That's just all we're asking for. So
yeah.
All right, let's just get into this fucking main event segment, man. Roman, Punk, and Seth Rollins. So Roman comes out and he's with Paul Heyman. He says some words. Seth Rollins comes out where he's issuing a challenge for somebody to step up and call him out or whatever. And then Seth Rollins comes out. He talks about him and Roman and his history. You know, maybe it's time that we add another chapter to our story. And CM Punk comes out, right? And you notice like the crowd, right? The crowd will chant OTC. And then when Seth Rollins comes out, you'll hear the whoa sing along. And then when you hear Punk's music hit, you'll hear the crowd just completely switch and sing to Punk's theme song. This is what I mean, man, about just crowds and switching and flipping your audience to where all of these people, guys, are baby faces in this fucking ring to where they're not fighting for shit. Nothing. And this is what's so stupid, Brian, right? And you mentioned this too, to where Punk and Roman, like, I don't know why you're even touching that and wasting this in a triple threat with Seth, because now you're going to rush this matchup. You're going to rush this to where you're telling the story that the reason why Punk and Roman have issues right now is that Roman was eliminated by Punk in the Rumble. That's your hostility. That's what he said. Like, oh, it's like you eliminated me from the Rumble, and Punk's like, you fucking doofus. The Rumble is every man for himself. Like that. Like Punk even had to dumb it down in regards to, I guess, using common sense and logic. So still, you haven't even sniffed the surface of Paul Heyman and this favor. They keep mentioning it, but they haven't touched up on it at all. They haven't even scratched the surface of it. So now you're rushing that. You're saying, oh, what can we use to create beef with Punk and Roman? Well, he eliminated him from the Rumble. Okay, then you might as well start every feud with somebody being eliminated from the Rumble. Like, come on, bro. It's so stupid. And then, so everybody gets their words in, right? He's like, Punk is like, oh, thanks for serving up your tribal chief, right? Paul Heyman on a silver platter. He ends up attacking
I like that line because, like, and if you called
Punk
it the way Roman turned it, because it's one of those things where Punk's using the psychological game. Because I mean, Heyman didn't bring him there for Punk, but that's a brilliance of Punk, man.
Yeah, Punk is great, man. Listen, I'm telling you, man, I've said it before, he's best for business, bro. And it sucks that he's in a situation to where nothing makes sense and it's all over the place, but he's still CM Punk, and he knows how to say things and how to say it, if that makes sense. But so, guys, and Brian, I'm gonna give you answer your question. How do you think this segment ended when everybody got done talking? What do you think, bro?
Oh man, it was. They shook hands, or it was a brawl.
You would be correct. It was a brawl. They all brawled, guys. Yeah. Every single one of them just started brawling. Punk was going after Seth. Seth was going after Roman. Roman was going after Punk. And this was what was so stupid. I'll get to more of your thoughts, Brian, in just a second.
I know what you're saying. Yep.
And I mentioned this on the Holy Shit podcast, and you guys can watch this when it gets published out. Like, who was it first? It was Punk that all of a sudden that just got up on the announce table and menacingly just starts pointing to the WrestleMania. He says, you, me, WrestleMania. And he just points at the sign menacingly. And then they start brawling again. Punk gets his ass whooped. Guys, I'm not making this shit up. Then Seth Rollins gains the upper hand, gets on the apron. You points at the WrestleMania sign. There's more brawling after that. Then Roman Reigns
gets his ass kicked.
Rollins gets his ass kicked. Roman has the steel steps. He gets on top of the steel steps. You points at the WrestleMania sign, and guys, we do even more brawling. Guys, what the fuck am I watching? God, Brian, I don't know if you've watched any brawls, like actual physical altercations in real life. I highly doubt that when people are brawling with somebody, they would stop to point out a fucking sign for several seconds. What is this booking? This guys comes off so goofy. It is so just absolutely befuddlingly just so bad. I mean, fuck, man. And people want to wonder why I don't give a shit about this triple threat, because you do stupid shit like this. It comes across to where everybody looks so fucking stupid. This segment, guys, was a circus. If we were to actually go to a circus with clowns and acrobats, this is what you would fucking come across to end your show. And now we have this match. It's been made official on WWE socials. It's going to be Punk. It's going to be Rollins. And it's going to be Roman Reigns. Oh, my God, guys. I don't know what else to say anymore, man. I really don't. I've said my piece for months about this whole situation, that this could potentially happen. And now I'm just like,
yep.
And now we're here. And now it's officially a thing, man. And I'm just like, I just bang my head against a cement wall. Brian, any takeaways, man, as we end SmackDown here? What are your takes on this ending segment?
Just that it's disappointing that it's going down this way. I mean, that's my takeaway. Just both of these, Rollins and Roman, that could be a grade A top-notch story feud.
Sure. Yeah.
Punk and Roman, grade A, top-notch story and feud. And
for sure, yeah.
I hate it when they do this. It's just like, yeah, it's going to be in a somewhat entertaining match. And, of course, you throw Heyman out there, and Heyman's going to be fucking Paul Heyman. So it's going to be entertaining, but it's just going to be, you're taking two separate things that could be great and meshing them together, and it's just going to be, that was okay. That was nice.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's my issue with it. Especially with the Punk, Roman, and Heyman shit, man. Because, I mean, that's, like you said, I mean, they haven't even really scratched the surface there, and now we're 3 weeks away from Mania. It's a triple threat. And what the fuck, man?
The animosity is that Punk eliminated Roman from the Rumble. That's why he's furious with Punk. I'm like, dude, it's the fucking. I mean, Roman, I know you haven't been in a Rumble for the past 5 years, but it's every person for himself in the Rumble.
They're still doing the underlying thing of the whole Heyman thing, but like what we're both saying, I mean, it's 3 weeks now from Mania, and you haven't even touched it. So the only way you can do it now is to fucking rush that shit. That's the only way.
Exactly, right? So, and then like Roman's face after what Punk said, he's like, dude, it's every man for himself, man. And then Roman's like, oh, you got a point there, man. It's like all of this shit is so stupid of how we're getting here. They're all faces. They're all separate feuds. They're all just brawling with one another. Guys, it's a circus fest. But this is the booking of Triple H. Go ahead, Brian. Yeah.
I'll pose this to you, because now that, we're here and I'm, how's this going to happen, or what's going to go down?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll ask you afterwards, but I think so. Heyman and Punk are turning heel. Like Heyman's going with Punk. Punk's going to come out as the heel here. I don't know. What do you think? How do you think that's going to go down?
I mean, that's definitely a way that they can go, because the favor would make sense in regards to like, oh, maybe the favor was never a main event match at WrestleMania. The favor was for Paul Heyman to be his guy, CM Punk's guy again, to kind of push Roman Reigns. Like that was the favor, right? So when Roman Reigns is pushed to the curb, he's like, hey, listen, I know how much this, that Civil War bloodline war games meant to you, right? Your family and everything. And I had to call somebody up, and that, this was the favor. This was the plan all along. So I'm sorry, my tribal chief. I had to do this, and now you're switching gears to where Punk is now back side by side fully with Paul Heyman. I don't think at this point in Punk's career truly needs that. I mean, it'll bring good nostalgia for what they've done in the past. So I guess for storytelling wise, that makes sense. But man, Punk is so good, and people love CM Punk, and I don't know if it makes any sense to turn CM Punk. Like, Punk is such a good heel, though.
No, it wouldn't make. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. Other than if you put Heyman, Heyman screws Roman. I mean, that's the only way it makes sense.
Unless you're giving an actual reason to make Roman Reigns a bigger baby face, which is his wise man turning on him to join his old pal CM Punk to be a Paul Heyman guy again. So, yeah, I mean, that's probably, at least if you're going to do Roman and Punk in the future, like a one-on-one matchup feud, that's the only thing, at least what comes to mind, that truly makes sense in a way, because you're not going to turn Roman back as a heel. I mean, you're not going to go back that route.
I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and so... But I don't know. Punk is a Punk.
Here's another scenario I can see happening too. Which, Jesus Christ, I hope this doesn't happen. Yeah. But that it comes down to Punk and Roman are sitting there fucking arguing or whatever. Heyman's in the middle. Yeah. Boom. Who gets the win? Seth fucking Rollins. Jesus Christ, man.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah,
so I don't know, man.
I haven't.
And that's why this is all shit. Like, it shouldn't even be a fucking triple threat.
Yeah, and I'll be honest too. It's funny because you mentioned of how this all goes down. I haven't even begun to truly even think that, because I'm still befuddled of why this is still even a thing. So, I mean, my thoughts will change as this goes on, because now this is officially a matchup. So now we need to dissect of how this can all make sense and how everything comes out of everything in one piece. You know what I mean? So, well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was another edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast. This was our SmackDown review show. We went over a lot of stuff today, some ratings talk, some AEW. We will be talking more AEW when we talk AEW Dynasty. That's going to be April 6th. So around that time frame is when we will discuss and recap, give some takeaways about AEW Dynasty. And we got the WrestleMania Roundtable, man. That's coming up in just a couple of more weeks. We got a bunch of content creators that will be joining us, talking about WrestleMania, talking about some of the big marquee matchups, and we will discuss all of that as of April 12th. And when we will do that recording, it will be a week before WrestleMania. So stay tuned for all of that. You guys see the banner down below. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and on TikTok. That is Ruthless_Talk. Of course, you can check out our podcast. It is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Shout out to everybody who has subscribed to our YouTube channel. We are well past 300 subscribers on our YouTube channel, so I want to thank everybody so much. And for another episode, hope you guys enjoyed. And once again, shout out to the Holy Shit Podcast. Once again, that collaboration episode will be coming out shortly, sometime this week. Again, we also talked John Cena. We talked Tony Storm, Mariah May. We talked a bunch of stuff, this triple threat that we just got done talking about. So we really went in depth today about this triple threat and about SmackDown. So if you guys are interested, definitely check out this collaboration. Once again, shout out to the Holy Shit Podcast. Make sure you guys do check out their stuff, and I will leave their socials in the description down below for you guys to go check out the Holy Shit Podcast. So shout out to them, and stay tuned for the collaboration, and stay tuned for some more content coming your way. Brian, final takes on SmackDown, final thoughts before we end the show.
Just shout out to Abe and Holy Shit Podcast. Thanks again. And yeah, man, this is a lackluster ride to Mania, but thank you, Cena.
Thank you, Cena.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is going to do it for today's episode, everybody. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Brian Thomas.
Until next time, there will be a next time. Your boys are signing off saying salute.
Peace out.
And take care, everybody. Top guys, we are out.